Ladies and gentlemen, is it difficult to create a JPA Entity Listener in Spring Boot? The quick answer is, and short answer is no, it is definitely not. So let us try to make one of those tonight. Just so you know it, just because you can create an entity listener and because you can manipulate the entity before actually storing it, doesn't mean that you actually should. You need to think very carefully, and in 99% of the times, then you should actually create a service instead, and you should be aware of what you're actually doing and when you're doing it, and not use these entity listeners. But sometimes they're actually quite nice to have. Let's say that your entities, or the many of your entities, they have the same fields. It could be like updated timestamp. When was it updated last time? Who updated it? Then you could actually have an entity listener to store those information, to add that extra metadata on your entities, so you don't have to apply that on all of your entities with a service, for instance. Another use case is logging. If you want to log, just before something happens. Another use case is that you want to have an audit trail, and you want to create a record in another table whenever something is updated, and you want to store who did what at what time. Then an entity listener is could be an excellent choice. But always think about if it's the right choice before you use the entity listener. So let us create. We have an alien right here. Let us just see what we have right here. We have, and it's an entity. I'm using the H2 database, and this is Spring Boot. I've created this project by pressing File, New project right here, and then I have chosen the Spring Initializer. I chose Java version 17. It's actually or 20. I'm the 20 JDK. And then I've added the cucumber manually. If you've seen my other videos, then you probably saw that I added cucumber, and that's actually it. So here we have an alien. So this is an alien entity right here. We want to listen to what's going on just before we are storing this alien, but then we want to manipulate it. In our situation, we want to increase the weight with 10 kilograms. Maybe we want to add some candy to this alien, and then of course it becomes a bit heavier. So let us do that. So I'll create a new class right here, and I'll name this. It could just be. Usually you not have an entity listener per entity actually, but you could actually do that if you want to. But let us just name this Mike's entity listener. Or actually, it is not Mike's entity listener. We should have the purpose in there, and that is weight increase entity listener. Yes. Or could also be alien entity list. Yeah. This is a fine name. That's a good name right here. And we can have it as a component. You can have it as any. You can also just have it as a class, but you can also have it as a component right here. And then we can have some methods that says like Prepersist, like this. So that means that just before destroying the entity, then we will come to this method right here, and we'll have a public void, and then we will have just before persist. And here we'll have the object right here. And now we have to test for the type. If object instance of, and then we can say alien, like this, alien A. This is the new template. This is the new template pattern that I'm using here. I'm actually setting the alien right here. So let us just set it right there. And then we can actually say that we want to alien dot get set weight, and then we will say alien dot get weight, and then we will just increase it with 5 just for fun. We will also add some log statements. So we will say SL for J like this, and then we will say log.info, and we can log any object. So we will say log listened for object with type class type, and then we say curly brackets, and then we say object dot get class, get name, get simple name. Thank you very much. And then we can manipulate it right here, and then we can actually say that we want to add weight to alien. New alien now looks like this. And then we have the alien right here. And that's actually it right there. Yeah, so let us start with this. So now we have this. Now we have a listener, but we have not set which entities that we actually want to apply this listener to. So that means that we go to the alien entity listener right here, entity listeners, and then we say that we need to give a value that is a list. So that means a value, because we could have multiple. Of course, you can have multiple JPA event listeners or JPA persist listeners on each entity if you want to. We just want one, so we will just say wait class like this. So that is the listener that we want to use. So this means that if I already have a repository, yes, I already have a repository. So let's say that I think I have some default data. Yeah, so you can see here I actually have a lot of default data, so I can actually just start up my application. Then I will actually see that whether the listener works or not, because here we have post-construct, and we can actually see that we're creating all of these aliens right here. I'm not sure if the event listener should work. Okay, let us just start the application. Actually, I could also create an empty test that would give us the same effect. But let us just start the Spring Boot application and see that if Susan now weighs 75 instead of 70. So let us just check that right there. So we'll say here, oh yes, look what happens here now. So look what happens here now. So where is Susan? Where is Susan? Yes, look at chubby Susan. Now she weighs 75 kilograms. That is quite cool. Mike now weighs 120. Maybe I should actually subtract the weight instead. I tried to put in 115, but I actually get 120 out of it. But actually, we don't know if this is actually the case in the database. So let us create a test actually instead. So we will go, and the easiest way to create a test is actually to go to the top of the class and then press Alt Insert. Then you can choose test right here, and then you can say alien default data test. Yeah, that's a fine test. It is actually a fine test, and of course you should that it's already there. Yeah, let's just update the existing one. So we actually we have a test that does a lot of stuff right there. So let us just add. We will say alien repository. That also means that we already had the alien repository in our tests. So I did not have to wire that one up right there. It's right there. Spring Boot tests. And if you do not need the web environment, always create your test with web environment none. You will be much faster to run. And then remember, you always have to assert something, or else it's not a real test. So we will just say get aliens, find all. Yes, we want all of the aliens. Introduce all of this, and then we will actually. Actually, these tests, we actually have tests for what we're trying to do here now. Okay, so now we actually take all of our tests out, and then we will actually say stream, and then we will actually say filter, and then we will say give us the alien with the name equals ignore case. Was it Susan? Yes, it was Susan. So now we are getting Susan out right here. Susan. And of course we should have created a query that would be the most optimal thing, but now we're just playing with some streams as well. It's always fun to play with streams actually. So find first, yes, and then we can say our else throw. That means that if there is no alien with the name Susan, then we will actually throw an exception on that line right there. And then we assert, and we use assert J of course, because assert J is much easier to read and it has a lot of cool features. So use, and it's default, per default is part of the Spring Boot initializer. If you run the boot initializer, then you get assert J out of the box. You get JUnit 5 out of the box. And you can see that it's JUnit 5 if you see something with Jupiter in the package name, because Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun. So is equal true. Well, equal ignore case is equal. Okay, now we actually need to say assert that Susan.getName, and then we say is equal to ignoring case, and then we will say, okay, first of all, we assume that the name is Susan, of course, and then we can also say it's actually, then we actually want to create another one. We could have created it in the same system. We want to say get weight, and then we say this should be is equal to. You can also say, there's a lot of cool functions, methods right here in assert J. We have is even, is odd, and is greater than, or is less than. But right now we want to say is equal to 75 kilograms because it starts at 70, and we want to see if it has been persisted into the database with 75, because that is what our listener actually did. So let us run and actually see what happens right here. We are now manipulating our aliens. Yes, our test is green, so we are quite happy. Just for fun, let us also print it out. Susan. And then we'll say Susan is right there. So now we will also see the to-string representation of Susan in our test. The other test might actually fail because they are expecting a sum of the weights. So here we have weight 75. ID 1 inside the database. She's a Martian. Yes, run speed is quite fast actually, and also quite high. So it's okay, she's not chubby. 75 kilograms is nothing nowadays if you also 190 high. It could also be muscles, right? It does not need to be fat. Okay, enough about the healthy stuff. What was it I want to do? I want to go back to my entity listener right here, because I want to show you that of course you have Prepersist right here. We could also have done a lot of other things like post persist. Post persist, that is after it has been updated. We can have set post deleted. Post remove. Okay, post remove. You will actually see they actually here. So we have post load, post persist, post remove, post update. So we could actually have used those. All of the ones with JavaX persistence, those are the JPA related annotations and things that we could listen, events that we could actually listen for. So we could also say pre-remove like this. So if we try to delete something, then we can actually we can store a copy of it somewhere else before we release it. Maybe we can put it to archive. So then we can actually archive the alien instead of just deleting it, so it will appear in another table. That's another use case for these listeners right here. It's only imagination. It's just another tool in your toolbox, and use it, of course. With you always have to think, and you always have to use your brain before you use any of the tools in the toolbox. And now you have another tool in the toolbox, and I hope you are just slightly happier than you were before. You will probably, if you're a developer, then you are by default happy, right? But you might be just 1% happier now that you got a new tool in your toolbox. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great evening. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.